Anything you need more clarifications, or you have any other questions? The time to ask. Let's give it 1 minute before we start so that everyone joins. I see people are still joining. All right. If there are no questions, let's just start. So what we said that today we will continue with the quantification of the corrections that we talked about in yesterday's class. Okay. So there are some derivations associated with these corrections, which I'm not going to do for you because the derivations are fairly easy and you can do them on your own from Laudy's book, but they're pretty much included in your syllabus. But they're very simple derivations, so I'm not doing them for you. I'll just write down the uh, important numerical values that you will need to do the corrections. Okay. So one of the corrections that we had not covered yesterday is called latitude correction. And you know that because Earth is not a perfect sphere, okay, the value of G actually changes from the equator to the pole. From equator to the pole, the value of G actually, small g, really changes, right? So, for example, if we want to compare a G value, okay, with location A with location B, okay, which sits at fairly distant latitudes, then we must apply latitude corrections on GM, which is my G measured, right? Now, it is not, perhaps it can be neglected if A and B are closely spaced or in the same area, then you will perhaps not be bothered about latitude correction. Okay? But if you want to compare G value from A to B, which are distantly spaced, fairly distantly spaced in terms of their latitudes, then you will do latitude correction. And latitude correction is delta G lat. This is how it is assigned, and this is around 0.814 sine 2 lambda. So lambda is my change in latitude. Okay, so lambda is change in latitude. from A to B. Okay, time to lambda, and this is milligal per kilometer. Milligal per kilometer. Now, of course, that because the gravity actually decreases towards the pole. Okay? So gravity, so G value decreases towards pole. So if I want to calculate B with respect to A, then I have to add delta G latitude. And if I want to calculate A with respect to B, then I have to subtract delta G latitude. Now, this is fairly easy. Now let us try to look at the terrain correction once more and try to quantify delta G capital T. Okay, so terrain correction. And terrain correction is generally uh, assigned as delta G capital T. We assigned them, you remember, as T1 and T2 for positive and negative latitudes. Okay. Now let us say we will do this delta GT for a positive uh, uh, terrain, and it will be exactly the same for the negative terrain. Okay, so you can actually figure out for the negative terrain as well. So let us say here is my positive terrain, and here at point P, I have done my measurement like I have explained in the last class. So let us draw some reference frame for our convenience. So we said, so minus delta G T. Because this actually pulls up, I am providing a negative sign. And then when we do the correction, we have to add this value to the GM. So it's essentially what we have to do. We have to understand the total gravitational pull due to the positive terrain, right? Now, what we are going to do here, we are going to essentially uh, follow the concept of integration. So I will divide this whole positive terrain into a number of small cylinders. Number of small cylinders. They could be of equal length. And then, of course, I will calculate for one and then integrate it. So now let us just look at this one. zoom this one. So this is how it will look like. Let me first draw the picture for you. Then I will explain what I am trying to do.
Sir,
Yeah,
sir, x-axis is what?
this is distance. Yeah, if you consider in two dimension, x-axis is distance. So there is of course a y-axis, right? So
Sir, I
y-axis.
mean if one,
Sorry.
sir, x-axis is distance.
Yeah, distance. I mean x, y. I mean if it is a three-dimensional body, right? And it's a cross section of the three-dimensional body. So it's length.
Okay, and sir, yeah, under the curve is terrain.
Sorry.
The area under the curve is terrain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so you will understand this. Just hold on. So what I'm trying to do, I'm just blowing up one of these cylinders. Okay, so let us say this is how this looks. This will look like. Let me just draw it first, and then I will explain what I'm trying to do. Sorry, my apologies for my poor drawing. So this is one of these half cylinders that I am drawing. Okay. This is more or less how this will look like. Okay. And then let us say uh, here is my point P, and let's say here is the Z axis, of course. And let us say this this distance is R1. Okay. And then this distance, so the inner radius and the outer radius is R1 and R2 respectively. The height of the cylinder is small h. This angle, okay, is pi 0. Sorry, phi 0. Now let us consider. So now I have essentially broken this whole positive uh, elevation into smaller cylinders, and one of them I have blown up. Okay, and then let us also think that this small cylinder is essentially, is can be broken down into several other small cylinders. Okay, this is just to get, this is just to integrate this one even. Okay. And let us say This is situated at a depth of, at a height of z from the base of the cylinder. Okay? And then this distance is small r. Okay? And then we join this point with the middle of the cylinder. Okay? And let us say from the vertical axis, you can understand that this plane is a vertical plane, right? So this is a vertical angle. Let us say that is theta. So now we can essentially calculate delta z. So delta GT, there is a derivation given which you can find out in Lowry's book, which is fairly simple. And you will find out, you can actually find delta GT is equals to, okay, capital G rho. Rho is the density of this cylinder, okay? Phi 0 integration R equals to R1 to R2 R minus square plus h square minus 1 dr. Okay, that will be essentially the value of delta GT. Okay, by using this concept, and if you simplify that one, you will find out that delta GT is equals to G rho phi 0 over of r square plus h square minus r1 minus square plus h square minus r. This will be the equation. Another bracket to close. So thus you can find out your terrain correction. Now, of course, you understand that um, this can be fairly time consuming if you want to do it by hand. Okay, so there are computer softwares available which actually process your satellite images. Okay, so you have beautiful satellite images nowadays and digital elevation models, DEMs, digital elevation models, where if you fit your data, I mean, if you have your digital elevation model properly sorted out, and then if you say that this is where I have taken my so the digital elevation model, let me just show that part to you. Digital elevation models are nothing but contour maps, right? So you have elevation contours. Say this is 800 meter, 700 meter, 600 meter, 500 meter. Okay, and suppose here is your point P. Okay, so if this is your point P, that means this is the extra mass. This is the positive elevation that you have to count for. If you feed that to a computer software, they use the same philosophy that I have just explained and can calculate uh, the delta GT that you need to calculate, that you need to add to your GM value. Now, if we look at the Booger plate correction, I'm also not doing the derivation for you here. So Booger plate correction delta G dp is equals to 2 pi capital G rho h, okay, where h is the thickness of the Booger plate, okay, and rho is the average density of the Booger plate. Okay, h is the thickness of the Booger plate, and rho is the average density of the Booger plate. And generally, it is found that uh, the value comes around, you insert the average density of the crust. So if you put a density in kg per meter cube, then you will find that the value of delta Gp is 0.419 into 10 to the power minus 3 rho. So sorry, yeah. So rho you have to insert in kg per meter cube. Okay, milligal into 10 to the power minus 1. So what is essentially necessary is only the thickness of the Booger plate. So if you multiply the thickness of the Booger plate with the average density of the Booger plate that you are considering, say for example, if it is in the continent, then you can use, you have to look at the rock types of which density you want to put for the Booger plate, be it granite, be it gneiss, sandstone, whatever. Okay, and then if you convert that into kg into meter cube, replace that in rho, and multiply that with the thickness of the Booger plate, you will be able to find out the Booger plate correction. Okay. So as we said, that the Booger plate correction must be subtracted if above MSL in sea level, if above in sea level, then delta G dp must be subtracted, right? And if it is below the mean sea level, I mean under the sea, then delta G dp must be added. We explained why yesterday. And then finally, the free air correction. Free air correction. Delta G FA, like we had written. We can also write down that delta G by delta R. I mean, the change in small g with respect to the height, okay, is equals to minus 2R by G, and that comes in the order of 0.3086 milligal per meter. Okay, and we said that above MSL, I mean in the onshore, above MSL, delta G FA must be added. Okay, and below MSL, delta G FA must be subtracted. Now, one thing you see that wherever I am adding Bouguered plate correction, I am subtracting delta GFA, right? And vice versa. If delta GFA is added, then delta GBP is subtracted. It works exactly the opposite. If you add delta GBP, you have to remember you have to subtract delta GFA. And if you add delta GFA, then you have to subtract delta GBP. And that changes whether you are above the in the continent or you are below the ocean. Okay. So in total, so altitude correction is a combination. I'm just providing a mode of delta G EP and delta G FA. Okay. So the altitude correction, I mean, either you have to subtract delta GFA, add delta GBP, or subtract delta GBP, add delta GFA, depending on where you are. But together, this is called altitude correction because they act exactly opposite to each other. Yes. Now, there is another correction, but in most of the cases, it is neglected. What we call as tidal correction. Okay. So because of the so essentially, the gravity can slightly be changed due to the pull of the moon as well. Okay. So due to the change in tidal cycle, there could be a very small change in your delta G measurement. Okay. But in general, if you are doing it at the right time, say for example, if you in most of the cases, tidal correction is not considered; it is kind of neglected. But maybe in few special cases, you might need to consider tidal correction as well. So we are not going to get into details of tidal correction because it is not that significant. But uh, it's no harm to note that there is something called tidal correction too. Okay. So now let us refresh another thing once more. We have defined the gravity anomaly. So my ultimate aim of doing all this correction is to find out gravity anomaly, right?
Sir, doubt.
Yeah.
So the derivation for the Bogart plane correction,
Yeah.
we consider the terrain formula and we make the inner radius 0, outer radius very large, somewhat like a cylinder.
in the Bogart plate correction.
Yes, sir. Like the inner radius becomes 0, the outer radius is extended very large,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
and height is given. So, aren't we considering like a flat cylinder? Don't we need to
Yeah,
consider
it's like a disc. You could do consider a disc.
like a
Yeah.
disk? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
don't we need to consider the curvature of the Earth here?
No,
Or
because you are doing it for a smaller portion, na? So you can use a flat Earth model. Yeah.
okay,
So
okay,
for for example, why do we? I mean, the way we portray maps, Kavin, it's the
Hmm.
flat Earth model, but it works pretty fine with us, right? So if you, I mean, because the gravity surveys are not generally done over a, I mean, it's okay to actually consider to neglect the curvature and consider flat Earth model, and that doesn't make a significant difference in your calculations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So can you just tell me what? So we discussed before that we talk about this delta G, which is my gravity anomaly. That is what we are after, right? So can you now tell me, if you do you remember what gravity anomalies are? What is gravity anomaly? Can anyone tell me? What is gravity anomaly then? Anyone?
The theoretically calculated gravitational acceleration minus the measured and corrected
Exactly.
acceleration.
Right. So it's the difference between G measured and corrected minus G theoretical, right? Or we said it as G normal. Okay.
So
And the
these are allowed to be positive or negative, right?
what is that?
These anomalies are allowed to be positive or negative.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So I can put a mode here. You will see it can be positive and negative. Yeah. In some cases it will be positive, and in some cases it will be negative. Okay. So G measured essentially considers, so G measured, okay, as it is, if we don't do any corrections, it actually considers the effect of topography. It considers the effect of uh, delta rho. If I just you understand now what delta rho is. I mean the difference in density beneath the Earth's crust, and of course it considers Gn, right? Okay. So by the corrections, what we do, we in GMC, in the corrected measured, we get rid of this topography, right? And then when we essentially subtract the Gn from it, then we get rid of the Gn as well, right? When we calculate gravity anomaly. Okay. So what we are left with, okay, so delta G then is left with only the effect of, when it depends on how well you have done your correction. So then your delta G is become only a function of your delta rho, right? I mean, with by delta rho, I mean the body which is sitting underneath, right? It will depend on its areal extent. It will depend on its distance from the top surface. It will depend on its density difference. That's fine, but it will depend on the body if we do my corrections correctly. Okay, that's the idea of the whole thing. So now the as per convention, okay, as per convention or practice or practice, there are two types of gravity anomalies which are calculated. Okay, two types of gravity anomalies which are generally calculated as per convention or practice. Number one is called Booger gravity anomaly. And Booger gravity anomaly is generally referred as delta G B. And Booger gravity anomaly is equals to GM. GM means G measured, okay? Plus, now I am going to show you the corrections. Delta G FA. FA stands for free air correction minus delta G BP. BP stands for Booger plate correction. Delta G T. T stands for terrain correction. And delta G latitude. So now the latitude correction you may or may not do. It will still be a Booger plate correction. Depends on whether you are considering your whole survey in a single. I mean, if the area is restricted in a smaller latitude difference, or we are comparing it with further latitudes. Okay, depending on that, we might or might not add delta G latitude minus Gn. Okay, so you can see in Booger gravity anomaly correction, we are doing all sorts of corrections. So free air correction, Booger plate correction, terrain correction, latitude correction is of course optional. Okay, and then subtracting it from my theoretical value, and I am getting my Booger gravity anomaly. And then there is something called delta GF, and that is what we call as free air anomaly. And in free air anomaly, what we say, this is what we call as delta GF. In free air anomaly is GM plus delta G FA plus delta G T plus delta G latitude minus Gn, and of course G latitude is optional. So what is the basic difference between free air anomaly and Booger gravity anomaly? That in Booger gravity anomaly, I am doing my Booger plate correction, but in case of free air anomaly, I am not doing my Booger plate correction. So in free air anomaly, in free air anomaly, delta G BP is not done. And we will see why. Okay? We will see why in case of free air anomaly, delta GBP is not done. So in Booger gravity anomaly, we do all sorts of correction. So we do a measurement and we do all sorts of correction, and then we subtract it from the natural, so the theoretical small g value. And then in free air anomaly, we first measure the GM, and then we do all corrections but the Booger plate correction, and then subtract it from the from the theoretical value. Okay, we will see what advantage does this bring to actually have both sorts of anomalies in picture in a moment. Now, before that, one question that was asked about positive and negative anomaly. So if we just try to see what that will mean, okay? So we will draw two graphs. In one, I'm drawing, simply G, I'm varying G, and here I am, say, plotting distance. So this is my T normal. Normal, and then I'm drawing my GM. So in few cases, my GM will be exactly equal to G normal. And then in cases, the GM can go up. Sorry, GMC, right? This is GMC. GMC can go up, or the GMC can go down. Not together, but at two different instances. GMC can go down. Now, if I now do a second plot, again, distance versus, in this case, I'm plotting delta G, okay, the gravity anomaly. So, and I correspond that to the first graph. What I see that in the first instance, I'll see that, so in this case, in this distance from A to B, what will be my gravity anomaly? Can someone tell me? From A to B, what will be my gravity anomaly? Anyone?
So it should be 0.
It will be 0. Yeah. So here from A to B, it will be 0. Okay. And then for the first case, case 1, I will see my delta G will be going up, right? And then again, it will become 0. Okay. So this is my positive gravity anomaly. So this is my case 1. And for case 2, I try to draw distance. Here I am plotting delta G. So from A to B, it will still 0. And then for case 2, see, I'll have this, and then again from point C, it will become 0. But my gravity anomaly is negative. So either you can represent your change in gravity with distance. So this is in 2 dimensions, change in gravity in distance by plotting GMC and then your G normal and show your anomaly. But the better way is just to show the subtracted product, which is my gravity anomaly. In one case, it is positive. In one case, it is negative. Okay? So this is my positive gravity anomaly. This is my negative gravity anomaly. And this is for one line. Okay? Now, suppose I have an area, okay? And then I have calculated gravity anomalies, delta G's at different points. I have my delta G values at all different points. Okay, I have taken my gravimeter at different points and calculated the delta G value, be it positive, be it negative. Okay. So then I can essentially contour my gravity anomalies. Suppose we see that the gravity anomalies, so say suppose this is positive gravity anomaly. Let us say this is plus 40. Let's not be bothered about the unit as such. We can normalize the unit to increase the resolution. 40, 20, 10, okay. And then maybe here I see that my gravity anomaly at this point becomes 0. Okay. And then it remains 0 for rest of the map. So this is X, Y. This is a similar map that you have looked at in your introduction to geology class, right? So what I have done here, I have plotted X, Y, and then in a normal contour map, what we plot Z, which is the elevation. But here instead of Z, I am plotting delta Z, and I am seeing my delta Z is kind of contoured like this. Okay, if it is contoured like this, I can see that this is the area where I have a positive anomaly. Okay, this is the area where I have a positive anomaly. Now, by looking at the shape of this positive anomaly, okay, can I guess what is the shape of my body underneath? Can I make a guess or not? So, if this anomaly shape is circular, okay, it's most likely that the thing which is lying underneath is kind of spherical, right? Because so this is what you are looking at, right, at the top. So if I find this to be circular, so that means perhaps the body which is lying underneath is perhaps spherical. I'm not 100% sure, but perhaps this is spherical. Okay. Now, if the shape of this anomaly is kind of like this, this is my area, and I see the shape of my anomaly is like this. So I'm quite confident that the body which is sitting inside is kind of which is sitting beneath the crust is kind of elongated. Yeah, it has a more it has a trend which is kind of northeast southwest. It's not extending towards southwest northeast. Okay, so if I want to kind of excavate this body, I will certainly not drill a well here, right? I will perhaps I will not also drill a well here. I might drill a well here, 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 just by looking at the shape of the gravity anomaly just by looking at the gravity anomaly map. So this is what we call as a gravity anomaly map. Okay. Is that point clear, everyone? How these gravity anomaly maps are generated and what do they signify? You understand. Is this clear, everyone? Can someone confirm? Did you get my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
so would these anomalies give you only non-homogeneous kind of, like, for example, oil wells where there's a concentrated deposit of something, or
See,
would they?
Yeah,
dilute?
oil and gas generally, I mean, the type of fluid, I mean, oil and gas cannot be detected from gravity anomalies. Okay, what you can detect, say, for example, I have an iron ore body. Okay,
Okay.
so iron ore, you know, the density of the crust is 2.78 gram per cc, right? It's like
Yes.
in that range. Okay, but if you have a concentrated iron ore, the density can go all the way up to 4 gram per cc. Okay, so there is a considerable difference between your rho 1 and rho 2, right? So
Okay.
that can be found out uh, from a gravity anomaly map. Okay, so oil and gas cannot be detected from gravity anomaly, but it is also used in the oil and gas industry. But it is used to detect anticlines. You know, so what does anticlines do? Subsurface anticlines, it actually uh, kind of concentrates mass in an area. So some positive structures beneath can be detected from gravity anomalies as well. Okay, but what was your question? Let me hear it once more.
So my question was that can we detect how small a change in the gravity anomaly can be detected? Like, should it be significantly large, or can it be
So
very
it
small?
well it has several factors, and I will discuss that. I will show you an example, and then you will do some examples by yourself, where you will kind of understand the sensitivity. So it depends on three factors. Okay, whether it will be able to be detected or not. Okay, so the first thing, it depends on the survey itself. Okay, so if your gravimeter is extremely sensitive, okay, then you will do a better survey. So your resolution will increase. Number one point. If these points are closely spaced, okay, then you will generate a better gravity anomaly map, okay, and that will also provide you better resolution. So that is number 2 point. Number 3 point is how closely your body is actually placed with from the surface of the earth. If it is more closely spaced, it is better detected. If it is if this distance essentially increases, the sensitivity decreases. Okay. If it is a very large body, obviously the sensitivity increases. If the body is small, the sensitivity decreases. So theoretically, any small difference should be detected if I have a very good uh, highly sensitive gravimeter if it comes in the sensitivity range. But there are some practical limitations to it, of course, and we will discuss them as we go along. So there is no direct answer to your question, but it will depend on several factors, okay, which we will discuss in at least we'll try to give you a brief. And another thing you have to remember that these techniques, for example, gravity, for example, magnetics we will discuss in the next chapter. They are not used in isolation. Okay, they are generally used more than one techniques are used together. Okay, so that you can actually constrain your underneath uh, material better by looking at the same thing from two different angles, okay, from two different methods, one by magnetics, one by gravity. Then you have a better constraint on the material which is sitting underneath. Does it answer your question, Om?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So the gravimeter essentially measures only the value of GM, right? Not the GMC.
No. It only measures GM. Then you have to do your calculations. It
Okay.
only measures GM. And then theoretical value you have to calculate with your hand, your computer. You can do it by yourself, no problem at any place. You just have to know the radius, right? Now TMC you have to do it by yourself. TM is calculated by is actually measured by gravimeter. There is another concept I want to bring in today, and then I will end, and we will develop on that concept tomorrow. Okay, and we will discuss in details about this concept when we talk about isostasy. So has isostasy been discussed before in your introductory classes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you know about isostasy. That is excellent. So you can tell me that if I have a mountain, to maintain the isostatic balance of this mountain, how can I maintain the isostatic balance of this mountain? What are the models? Do you know? Do you remember? Anyone?
So it needs a root under the mountain.
It needs a root. So that is one of the models. Yeah. So it needs a root.
So that considers like everything has a constant density,
Yeah.
the crust, and it has a root.
So it has a root. So suppose, so this is my mantle, and this is my crust. So mantle has a higher density, rho 1, and crust has a lower density, rho 2. Okay. So when I have to invoke the theory of a root just beneath a mountain. Okay, we can understand that a low density material is kind of replacing a high density material. Okay. So a low density material is replacing the equivalent high density material. That is what we can also argue, right? Do you get my point? So that essentially creates a mass deficit. Mass deficit is being created when there is a mountain, and that because of the presence of the mountain, there is a root, and this root essentially creates a mass deficit because we conceptualize it that the effective density of this area kind of reduced, because if this root would have not been there, then the whole density would have still been rho 1, okay, which is higher. So, but then because of the presence of this rho 2, there is a mass deficit. And we will see, because of this mass deficit, what it translates in terms of the gravity anomaly, okay? How it manifests in the two gravity anomalies that we have discussed, the Booker gravity anomaly and the sea air anomaly. But that we will discuss in the pre-recorded lecture tomorrow. Okay, so I will stop the lecture now, and if you have any question.
So two doubts.
Yes.
One was so the shape of the massive object which is under the earth,
Yeah.
which causes an anomaly. Can it be like cross-checked with some other method, like say seismic waves or something else?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's how it is done generally. So, what the gravity anomaly essentially does, it provides you like a overall description of the body, not very high resolution, but then in cases that is sufficient. Okay? You don't have to do anything else. It is sufficient. But in cases you need additional techniques to constrain your body more, in those cases you take help from other techniques like magnetics, like seismic.
Okay. And the other one was like so in the Bogart correction and all that, you were mentioning that the gravitational difference should be added or subtracted depending on whether it's above or below the mean sea level.
Yeah, I mean
So-
above. I mean mean sea level is. I think yeah, it's whether it is in the within the ocean or whether it is onshore. Okay, let's remember it that way.
So because like won't the reference ellipsoid be a more standard height than the mean sea level, because mean sea level changes at locations with say a mountain or
So mean sea level is very close to the international reference ellipsoid. Yeah,
Okay.
it is not very different from the mean sea level. It's very close. It runs more or less parallel to it. Okay, you see the value, you will see it runs more or less parallel. So
Okay.
in the ocean, what happens? There is a inherent mass deficit, right? Because it is the ocean, right? So there is a depression, and the continent has an inherent positive geoid,
Yes.
right? So that's the reason all these corrections becomes exactly opposite.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Anything else? All right. If not, then I will stop it here and I will upload the pre-recorded lecture tomorrow. Thank you.